morning. Please take your hymnals and turn to 300, page 300. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Let's all stand, shall we? Page 300. Page 300.
There is a song in my heart today, something I never had. Jesus has taken my sins away. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad, I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Jesus has come and my cup's overrun. Oh, say, but I'm glad.
Page 300 on the second.
Wonderful, marvelous love he brings into a heart that's sad. Through darkest tunnels a soul can sing. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad, I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Jesus has come and my cup's overrun. Oh, say, but I'm glad.
On the last.
Won't you come to him with all your care, weary and worn and sad? You too will sing as his love you share. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad, I'm glad. Oh, say, but I'm glad. Jesus has come and my cup's overrun. Oh, say, but I'm glad.
How many of you are glad? How many of you sound glad? Let me vote. Did you hear yourselves? Oh, say, but I'm glad. Look, you sing any old way you want. I just want you to be glad. Hey? You're not going to have a choice when you get to heaven.
Maybe they're mad.
Oh, say, but I'm mad. Well, I don't blame you. It's always good to be mad once in a while. Let me turn this on so you can hear me. We're glad you're here. I can't believe that I'm having such a horrible year already. What date is it? Somebody asked me. Birthday girl. Birthday girl.
Oh, yes.
She's 75 today. Amy said, Era's birthday's today. I said, she just had one a year ago. Somebody said, how you doing? I said, I'm having a horrible year. They said, wait a minute. It was like the second or the third. This year, you mean, or last year? Oh, I said, last year was horrible. What was so bad about it? I said, I don't remember. What's happening this year? Oh, I said, it's just going too fast. I'm old. It's just rough. Just want to see if they're listening. You know, most people, how you doing? Terrible. That's good. Ready to pray? How many of you need prayer? Let's pray. Father, we are serious about what we need you to do. We want you to make us glad. You told us, you commanded us. You said, in fact, you'd give us your joy to make sure that we had full joy. You didn't want it to be on us or what's around us, but you said that your joy would be in us and that it would be full. Thank you for that. Lord, get a hold of these kids that are here. Stir the teachers up. Every class, every teacher. May it be the power of God, not just the word of God, but may it be the power of God. I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. You can be seated.
It's time to recognize the birthdays and anniversaries for this week.
How about that?
Dun, 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 dun.
She took off work to be here.
We got a bunch of them. Era Snyder. Ava Noel Thomas, Larry Klingenpill, Sharon Pavey, Carol O'Connor, and Nathan Ruley.
Wow.
Anyone else have a birthday this week? All right, so I know Ara's here and Sharon. It seems like there's somebody else.
Larry.
Oh!
Man, John.
I did that on purpose. Sometimes I'm slipping, but I did that on
Or
purpose.
Larry.
All right. Happy birthday. God bless you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. God bless you. Happy birthday to you. And then Richard and Deborah Annis have an anniversary this week. Anyone else have an anniversary? All right. The next song, 330. The Fight is On.
The fight is on, the trumpet sound is ringing out, the cry to arms is heard afar and near. The Lord of hosts is marching on to victory, the triumph of the Christ will soon appear. The fight is on, O Christian soldier, and face to face in stern array, with armor gleaming and colors streaming, the right and wrong engaged today. The fight is on, but be not weary. Be strong and in this fight hold fast. If God before us is better for us, we'll sing the victor's song at last. The fight is on, arouse ye soldiers brave and true. Jehovah leads, and victory will assure. Go buckle on the armor God has given you, and in His strength unto the end endure. The fight is on, O Christian soldier, and face to face in stern array, with armor gleaming and colors streaming, the right and wrong engaged today. The fight is on, but be not weary. Be strong and in this fight hold fast. If God before us is better for us, we'll sing the victor's song at last. The Lord is leading on to certain victory. The bow of promise bears the eastern sky. His glorious day, and every man shall honored be. The morn will break, the dawn of peace is nigh. The fight is on, O Christian soldier, and face to face in stern array, with armor gleaming and colors streaming, the right and wrong engaged today. The fight is on, but be not weary. Be strong and in this fight hold fast. If God before us is better for us, we'll sing the victor's song at last.
And our chorus is 519. Why worry? Come on. Why worry? It's no fun. 519.
Why worry when you can pray? Trust Jesus, He'll be your stay. Don't be a doubting Thomas, rest fully on His promise. Why worry, 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 worry when you can pray?
Yeah. I'm coming up here. That okay? I was on not lately, I was on a bus, a church bus, 1984. Some of you weren't born. Well, no, most of you were. I was 27 years old. I believed at that time we were coming home from Camp Shatek, northern Wisconsin. We had camp for our young people. When we were with Pastor Jones, we would pool with a bunch of churches. And so we went up there for a couple weeks of camp. Amy and I went, and we had just 2 kids at the time. Well, no, 3. I don't think Micah was, I don't know. We had some kids, but at that time I believed God, you can grab 1 Samuel 30. I believe God had burdened my heart for evangelism, and I felt like as I was training in college and working with Pastor Jones, I had this urge or calling, whatever you want to call it, to go to churches and preach. And so I have one still, little brochure, Evangelist Vito Rulli, has a real fancy picture of me on it. And I got some recommendations by some good men that I cut their hair, so they felt like they had to recommend me. Dr. Comfort, Dr. Cedarholm, and others that I knew. And I was on the bus, and so there was a guy from Racine, Wisconsin, which now is a good friend of mine. Then I didn't know him, but I said, hey, I want to give you this. I'm going into evangelism. And he looked at that, and he said, how old are you? I said, 27. He said, I'd never have you. You're too young. I didn't know what to say. He said, have you ever done this before? You're still in college? I said, well, I believe the Lord wants me to do it. Pastor Jones chimed in. He said, he's a good man. You can trust him. No, you might as well take this back. He said, I'd never have you. Well, that really bothered me because I thought, is this going to be a problem? So I talked to the Lord about it, and that week that guy called me. And I preached more meetings with him than I preached with anybody. And he said, I want you to come. And he said, God spoke to me. I'm in the background, you know. And I got to the church, and this big old dude comes up. I'd tell you his name, but I don't want to. And he comes up and he goes, you the evangelist for this week? I said, yeah. He said, you're awful young. I said, well, 27. I thought I was old. He said, you have nothing to say to me. I'm an older man. He might have been in his 40s. Isn't that funny? Perspectives sure change, don't they? He said, you have nothing to say to me. You know what I was saying? God, this is not funny. I believe I'm doing what you want me to do, and all you're doing is discouraging me. Well, God wasn't, but I thought He was. He said, well, I'll be here, this guy said. Same church where the pastor said, I'd never have you. This guy said, I'll be here, but I'm not going to listen because God won't speak through you. You're too young. And just, I thought, well, that's so encouraging. So I preached my heart out. He came up to me after the service. He said, give me the keys to your car. So what for? He said, just give me the keys. The pastor was there. I said, this guy wants, he said, give me your keys. I gave him the keys to my car. He came back. He said, here's your keys. I said, am I going to die? Did you plant a bomb? He said, we checked the whole thing out, changed the oil. You had some issues, and we put brand new tires on it. He said, God used you and His Word to speak to my heart. Never, I'm sorry. You know. When I met Pastor Jones, I got news this week that Pastor Jones is in a senior home. When I met Pastor Jones, he was 39. I'm feeling quite old. David had people around him, probably all ages. They probably weren't all seasoned warriors. They probably weren't the youngest of men, but they were willing. And I think God looks at our willingness. You know, we gain a lot. We're not smart. Nobody's smart at 27. Hey? I mean, we're still not smart, are we? We're still, and we want to learn, don't we? That man taught me that day. I was back there several meetings. In fact, that pastor now, who wasn't that much older than I, he's in retirement. And I don't think that guy's still living. I haven't had contact with them. But he'd always say in every meeting, give me your keys. You know, humility is a great trait. And it was awful humiliating for David to realize that he had done some wrong, bad things. And it's interesting, as I tried to get out of this chapter, I didn't even go beyond this. I just reread this again and said, Lord, I don't know. What do you want? So I want to spend another week here or more. And maybe you'll be helped, because it's God's Word. Remember, it's not me. Not about my age. Some of you are thinking, he's too young for me. Thank you. Write that down and sign it. He can't teach. I'm not trying to teach you anything. My prayer this morning is that God's power would be in His Word. Not on me, but on His Word. So we need His Word. We don't need somebody fancy. Somebody's making fun of my little Poochie thing this morning. A couple of y'all. And the she-bears are going to come after you. And I said, well, I'm wearing that because if some big fancy church sees me on live stream, they may ask me to come. And I want to go fancy. Not really. They'd kick me out. I'd get up and they'd go, oh, this is bad. Look at a few verses. Verse 8, 1 Samuel 30, verse 8. You know the verse, I'm sure, but I call this, do your part. We don't always like our part, but we need to do our part, whatever it is. If God just wants you to pray, you ought to be honored that you could talk to Him and pray and intercede for others. How many of you prayed for someone else besides yourself this week? You know God's keeping track of that. They may never know. Right? That person you prayed for. How many of you prayed for somebody to be saved this week? They may never know until we get to heaven, but they'll know. And sometimes it's tough to keep doing that. But we need to do our part. David, of course, has been rejected by the Philistines. He is heading back to Ziklag. Ziklag is on fire. They've taken everything that they own and burned what was left. David, it says, verse 6, is greatly distressed. They wanted to stone him. I don't know if you know what that means, but he would probably die. How many of you are ready to die? One, two of you? I don't mean right now. But how many of you know you're going to heaven when you die? That's something we ought to get excited about, right? I mean, I'm excited I'm going to heaven when I die. I'm not going to the ground. I'm not going to a hole. I'm going to heaven. I'm going to see Jesus. I'm going to see my mom and my sister and my dad and other people. How many of you would like to choose the way you die? Saul did. Next chapter, Saul commits suicide. He was so frustrated. Listen to me. People are still depressed. They're so frustrated. They get to a point that maybe you and I don't realize. One of the great preachers when I was in college, Dr. Warren Defoe. Warren Defoe pastored for many years in Indianapolis, and Dr. Defoe would come. And boy, those old guys, he was probably in his 50s. It just kills me to say that. But he would come, I'm in my 20s and I'm married. I think I'm old because everybody calls me Mr. Ruley. I've got 3 kids. And but Dr. Defoe, guys like him would come, and Dr. Defoe would just share and bear his heart and preach. And a lot of it wasn't, bombastic. Dr. Camp, if some of you remember Dr. Don Camp, when Dr. Camp would come, little guy, southern guy, he would come and And we always waited for Dr. Camp when he's preaching at us. The big thing was, watch him, watch him. He would swivel around. And man, he would just skin the hide off the faculty. You're killing these kids. You're taking away their zeal for the Lord. You're all dried up. You need to get some life in you. And I mean, he'd go after them. This is Dr. Cedarholm's best friend. In fact, helped him start the college. So Dr. Cedarholm would never get up and go, I'm not sure who this is. We knew who it was. And we loved the fact that Dr. Camp thought everybody on Chapel Day, everybody was equal. Dr. Defoe got sick. He was so desperate that he took a gun and put it to his head and blew his brains out. That just shattered me. Dr. Camp got Parkinson's. Gary Gilmore ran down to see him, and Gary knew how Dr. Camp sat across from me one time and encouraged me. He said, listen, son. He had a real low southern drawl. Dr. Camp could wear all white. He preached one time. He had white shoes, white socks, white pants, white shirt, white coat, white tie. I've never seen anybody like it, but he looked good in it. He had a white poochie. He had white hair. He had a white pen. I don't know about the pen. He looked at me, reached across, we're sitting together, and he zoomed across the table and he said, you going to college? I said, I don't want to. He said, well, God's got to prepare you. And not everything that He's going to prepare you with will be in the classroom. I said, but I'm married. He said, doesn't matter. You need to be prepared. Where are you going? I said, I'm thinking about Liberty. He said, what do you want to go there for? So I don't know. They accepted me. He said, where else you thinking? I said, Tennessee Temple. You don't want to go there. Too big. I said, well, where should I go then? He said, you ought to go to Maranatha Baptist Bible College. I just happen to be one of the founders. Dr. Camp got Parkinson's. Gary Gilmore went down to see him. His wife said, Gary, Mrs. Camp said, now Gary, Brother Camp is not himself. He said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, he's in that bed, but his mind isn't right. One of the godliest men I've ever been around, Dr. Don Camp. Gary walked in the room. Don Camp looked at him. He said, Gary Gilmore, blankety, blankety, blank, blank, blank. Gary looked. Gary, I said, what'd you say? He said, well, I didn't cuss back. I said, well, what'd you say to him? I said, Dr. Camp, how are you? I said, what did Dr. Camp say? He said, well, blankety, 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 blank, blank. Gary said, Dr. Camp, do you realize how you're talking? Don Camp said, I don't blankety, blankety, blank, blank care about blankety, blank, blank, blank. Gary walked out there, he and I met, and I said, what is going on? Is that what happens when we get old? I mean, all that comes out? Is that like all the poison? He said, no, man. He said, but you know what? I couldn't take that. He said, God knows what we're going through. God knows what we really are. Sometimes we're not always in control. But God is always in control. And I don't know about you, but sometimes people let me down and frustrate me. And sometimes they don't mean to. David let a lot of people down, didn't he? Spiritual giant. Knew God like probably nobody. wrote about God like nobody's ever written. David was, verse 6, greatly distressed. What did he do? What's the answer? We all have got problems, but we need the right answer. What's the answer to our problems? We encourage ourselves in the Lord. While we can. Hey, the day may come when you lose your mind. You got to encourage yourself now. You've got to know that God is in control. You've got to know that God can do anything. You've got to know that no matter what happens around you, to you, you've only got one place to go. Go through the Psalms. Mark the word refuge. Safe place. Hey, you got to have a safe place. Got to have a place where you can go when you don't know where to go. The Lord is my refuge and my strength. Verse 8. And David inquired of the Lord. You know what that means? Lord, what do you want? Can I share something with you? You know the best prayer in the world you can pray is not, Lord, this is what I need. The best prayer in the world that you can pray is, Lord, what do you want? How many of us pray for things for ourselves? Maybe the Lord wants something else. What do you want? Lord, what do you want? Let's be honest. We're not really thinking about what the Lord wants when we pray. We're thinking about what we want. Hello? Hear that bell ringing? David, verse 8, inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? What would David have done if God said no? We got a minute. What would David have done? I'll tell you what I think he would have done. Wouldn't you pray more? Wouldn't you get on your knees and say, God, you know the itch in me. I'm really itching to kill somebody, or however you talk when you're Old Testament. God, you know what? David would have to believe God. If David's getting right with God, here's what I know. The Bible says this in 1 John. If my heart condemns me, something's wrong. If my heart doesn't condemn me, then I have peace with God. So if my heart doesn't condemn me and I'm right with God, I can go to God and go, look, this is what I'm praying, but I'll accept what you want. But this is what I'm getting that I should pray, how I should pray. So David goes to God and he says, look, I'll go. If you want me to go, I'll pursue. But if God said, no, I want you to hold still. Boy, I hate holding still. What my first word I hate is patience. The second word I hate is wait. God knew. Hey, when David asked, what God say? Pursue. David jumps up, sharpens his sword, tells his 600 men to get going. He said, shall I, verse 8, shall I overtake them? David wanted to know what? Should he go? Then number 2, would I win? Will I find them? Will I get to them? David didn't have any problem thinking he could take care of them. Watch me now. When David is in, I don't know how to say this. Just let me kind of get it out. You know what? I study. And then sometimes it just turns into scrambled eggs, but it's edible. It doesn't look real good. David is walking. You got to listen to this, because I know what I mean. You may not. David is walking for these months with Goliath's people. How could he not think, David, how could he not think about his victory over Goliath? Did David do that? No, God did. Remember what he said in the 17th chapter? The battle is the Lord's. How could David walk amongst Goliath's people and not remember, not think? I'll tell you how. Just like someone could sit home from church and not think about all the times God has spoken to them. Did David know God could use him? Not a trick question. Yeah. Did he forget about it? Yeah. So here he is saying, David knows when he's right with God. Can you hear me when my back is turned? David knows that if he pursues this enemy, as long as he lets God fight, he'll win. I think there's some humility in the shall I overtake them. I don't come to God and go, hey, God, you owe me. But in a sense, when I'm his child and I'm right with him, he told me I could come boldly and ask anything I want, right? But there still has to be some humility. In other words, he can. I don't deserve it. So David asked God, something he hasn't done for a while. And God answers one word, pursue. For thou shalt surely, see the word surely? Not S-H, surely. S-U, surely. Look at verse 8. For thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail. Without fail means no casualties, no wounds. Don't you expect God to work that way? I mean, really. Don't we expect when God does something, the Bible says in Psalms, as for God, his way is perfect. Don't we expect God to do everything for sure? Okay, so they go. They get everything back. They get everybody back. I'm moving ahead in the story. I want to get to this last part. 200 guys can't go. You ever been that tired? Just can't move? Just want to sit. And what do we call it? What's the veg? Like a vegetable. We just want to veg. I'm not good at that. Amy will go. She'll come home, sit down. I'm dancing around. Well, not jitterbugging her. She'll go, why don't you just have a seat? And I'll say, you're not my mother. It's the way we have this unique relationship. We haven't done that for a while. One day, I think it was Christmas, she was on the couch in the family room, and I was still running around doing stuff. I can't stop. I don't want to stop. So I plopped down. And she looked at me. Everything okay? I said, yeah, I'm just going to sit here with you a minute. Oh, she melted all over me. The ooze oozed all over me. She's leaning on my shoulder. Her phone rings. It's Micah, FaceTime. She doesn't move. Click, she turns it on. He looks, he goes, what are you guys doing? I said, I'm sitting here with your mother, but my kids are calling and bothering me. I want to tell you Merry Christmas. And I'm thinking, you couldn't wait 10 minutes. How do you know that? So we talked, had a great time. Listen, I just want to do what the Lord wants me to do. And sometimes I could be stubborn about it. Sometimes you just need to rest. So these 200 guys said, we can't do this. So David said, we're good. David maybe, I don't know, maybe David was concerned about getting everything back with 600 guys. Remember the story of Gideon? Isn't that a great story? You know, Gideon's going to fight. God keeps whittling down. I would have had a heart attack. I mean, I'd say, hey, God, I'll tell you how this will work. You give me a whole bunch of guys and some Uzis and some tanks. What's God do? God always makes sure He gets the glory. David's thinking, 600. God said we could do it. Now 200 guys. 200! Not 200. 200 say, we're pooped. Ooh, can you say that in church? We used to use words like that, like gay. But there was a movie on I saw, I didn't watch it. It was the gay, it's an old movie. I don't know if it's Fred Astaire, but the gay something. You watch them movies? Who's in it? Is it Fred Astaire? How did I remember that? I can't remember Bible verses. David said, 400, huh? What would that do to you? You would go, okay, God, I would. I'd be kneeling all the way going, I didn't think 600 would do it. Now 200 less are so tired, so 400 go. But you know this story, right? Isn't it a great story? Verse 18. David recovered all. Verse 19, end of the verse. David recovered all. They head back, verse 21. And David came to the 200 men, which were so faint they could not follow David, whom they had made also to abide at the brook Bezer, and they went forth to meet David and to meet the people that were with him. They're excited. Watch this now. Got to read this slowly and carefully. And when David came near to the people, he saluted them. Watch this. Think about this. If you were a soldier and you were guarding stuff, and here comes your wife, your kids, your Game Boy, your Xbox. Just checking to see if you're listening. You feel kind of guilty. Like these guys did all the work. All you did was babysit. In fact, it's easier than babysitting. Amy and I were talking about Daniel, our son, who cares for his 3 kids a lot by himself. And I told Amy, I said, that kid is so unusual. He's so much like you. I said, me, Stephen, Micah, or Allison would have dumped those kids off at the kennel. But he cares for those. I mean, he changes them. He holds 2 of them at a time. He carries a cooler. He cares for them in a way that's just incredible. Somebody asked him, how's that going? He said, I'd rather lay tile from morning till night than watch those 3 kids. I said to him, you're not made for that. You're made to work. Not that that's not work. Hold on. Put your knives away. These guys are watching stuff, watching for the enemy. David comes up to them. What does he do? He salutes them. What's that mean? That's the word, Hebrew word, shalom. You know what it means? Everything's good. If I'm David, I just want to put my personality on David's character for a minute. Can I? If I'm going to get all my stuff back, and I've got 600, and I'm questioning the ability of 600, now 200 you weasels decide not to go. I'm mad. I fight this fight, come back victorious. Let me tell you something. I'm still mad. Are we close here? Are we on the same page? Thank you, Margaret. David knew that. You see, God gives us wisdom that we could never read or gain other than through Him. And so David says something to them to put them at ease. It's all good. In other words, he saluted them, shalom. No need for you guys to feel guilty. No need for you guys to feel that you did anything, watch, that you guys did anything less than we did. I'm not the pastor. Jesus said if you give a cup of cold water in His name, hey, that's pretty good, isn't it? We ought to just be giving out cold water. At least we'd get some reward. And so, verse 22, then answered all the wicked men and men of Belial. Say, who's that? The 400. Isn't that interesting how the Bible characterizes them? Hey, you're not going to like this, but maybe you need to hear it. When you start griping and complaining and have pride, you know what God calls that? You're related to the devil. Ouch. I hate this too. Hey, I'm on the same page with you. I hate this too. I just do what I'm told. Did you ever do something at your job you didn't want to do, but you had to do it because you get paid to do it? That's all I'm doing. I don't like any of this. I don't believe any of this. I'm doing this to get discovered. They said, these guys ought not get a thing. They didn't do anything. They didn't risk their life. Interesting, then answered. Doesn't say what they said, doesn't say why. It just says these guys, the wicked men and men of Belial, of those that went with David, and said, because they went not with us, verse 22, we will not give them aught of the spoil that we have recovered, save to every man his wife, his children, that they may lead them away and depart. You know what that's called? Sour grapes. And God says it's wicked. Hey? You know what that's called? Being ungrateful. You know what God calls it? Wicked. You know what that's called? Being selfish. You know what God says? You guys are wicked men of the devil. Wow. Did these guys get drunk? No. Did they commit adultery? No. They just badmouth. Look at me. They badmouth their fellow soldiers. Too much bad-mouthing of our fellow soldiers. Hey, you may badmouth what they believe if it's anti-Bible. But that could be us. You ever made a bad decision? Could you make a bad decision that changes your life? Yeah. They said, not fair. You know what and this is bad, I'm just going to share. You might as well know everything about me. You know, David had that little shepherd's bag he put those rocks in. I would have had a bag on the other side with pacifiers in it. When they start talking like that, I would have plugged one right in. Wah, wah, wah. We did all the work. Hey, we need to be careful, don't we? Hey? Bad mouthing. Those guys that stayed by the stuff, were they on David's side? Just doing a different job. We need to treat people like they're important. Doesn't matter who they are. And here's what can I just share something with you? And this is going all across the globe. You know who the worst servants of God are? The guys that pastor small churches. They got something to prove. So I'll tell these guys, hey, if you have one or none or 100, this is about God. And don't go trying to impress anybody. Don't go trying to make yourself look. God knows He put you there. The most humiliating experience of my life was when I came to Lakeville. And 4 people were here and 2 left. Those are literal numbers. Man, I was a big shot evangelist. Verse 23. Then said David, ye shall not do so, my brethren. Ouch. My brethren. Ouch. Who's he talking to? The Belial guys. What's he call them? Brethren. Thank God David was in touch with God. He said, ye shall not, verse 23, ye shall not do so, my brethren, with that which the Lord hath given us. Remember they said in verse 22, we have recovered. David straightened them out. He reminded them. He said, the Lord hath given us, verse 23, who hath preserved us and delivered the company that came against us into our hand. David said, we showed up. God did the work. We need to get our heads screwed on straight and realize and figure out what's important, why we're doing it. Verse 24, for who will hearken unto you in this matter? David said, you guys are talking dumb. Nobody believes that. You're saying that, but it doesn't make sense. Who will hearken to you? But as, look at verse 24, but as his part is that goeth down to the battle, so shall his part be that tarrieth by the stuff. They shall part alike. And it was so from that day forward that he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel unto this day. What was the statute? That if you went to battle or you guarded the stuff, you're equal. You know we're all equal. You know that, don't you? Did we pray? Almost time to go. David lost. Let me try to get through some of this. Half of it maybe, or maybe, you never know. God could do miracles. David lost everything. He lost his stuff, lost his home, lost his family. Why? Because he was disobedient to God. David, how do I put this? David went backwards. He declined spiritually. Notice these 3, I want to get these out. These are important. David lost his. He lost 3 things. Number 1, David lost his vision. Say, are these all going to rhyme or be alliterated? Nope. I'm not trying to be fancy. I'm trying to be helpful. He lost his vision. Listen to this verse. You know this verse. Chapter 27, verse 1. David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There's nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. And Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand. I shall escape. He lost his vision. Did he have his vision when he fought Goliath? Little twerp in front of a giant, two guys with shields and weapons. David's a twerp, capital T. David's a twerp with rocks. Not great big rocks, right? Little rocks. David knew it wasn't him anyways. David realized God. He lost his vision. Number 2. He lost his passion. David takes cheese to his brothers. 1 Samuel 17. Goliath is challenging anyone, one man, to a fight. David hears this, says to everybody around him, is there not a cause? He's saying, let's fight. That means you're supposed to run down there and beat him. But the problem was, none of them thought they could run down there and beat him. See, there was a time when David had passion. The 29th chapter, verse 3, then said the princes of the Philistines, what do these Hebrews here? They're in the wrong place. David didn't say, hey, y'all need to just talk to Goliath, tell him that we'll join up, we'll be slaves of theirs. No, he said, you fight me, I'll kill one of you. And David didn't say, no, listen, here's what you do. You just talk to him, you say, hey, Mr. G, it's Goliath, Mr. G, we want everything to be cool here, man. We'll give you stuff, we've got stuff, but nobody needs to die. David had passion. David said, somebody needs to show that big mouth a lesson. And his brother said, not you. You need to go home. You're a twerp. It's in the Hebrew. Twerp is in the Hebrew. You need to go home. David fought. Saul said, is it true? You keep saying you could beat him. You really think you could beat him? David said, no, not me. God will beat him. Saul said, go. Remember? Go and the Lord be with thee. Go. David lost his vision. He lost his passion. Number 3, David lost his guide. You lose your vision, you lose your passion, you lose your guide, you'll lose hope and purpose. I don't know where to stop. Let me say this and then stop. Let me fill your blanks. How's that? That sounds spiritual? Let me fill your blanks. Vision is the upward look. You keep your eyes on God. Why are we doing what we're doing? Because of God. Can God help us with what we're doing? Yeah. Can He get me through my problems, my trials, my troubles? Yeah. Long as I keep my eyes upward, my vision's on Him. Hey, look at me. I would have been gone from this place a long time ago if I didn't keep my eyes on God. Some of the junk we've been through and still are going through. And you know the hardest ones to endure? Are soldiers bad-mouthing other soldiers. Shouldn't happen. Hey, you get hurt or you disagree, just move on. Pastor Jones and I got in our tiff. He closed all the bank accounts, carried a gun in the pulpit, told everybody guns. If the government came to the door, shoot them. I said, man, I'm out of here. I went to Dr. Cedarholm. I said, how do I leave? Doc, you know Pastor Jones. I love him. I've been there. He's done some. He said, you leave quickly and quietly. And if anybody calls you, you don't say anything. You tell them to talk to him. Because I tell you what, I had something to say. Pastor Jones said to me, I said, do you believe Jesus will come at any moment? He said, I used to. I don't anymore. He does now. He reverted back. I thought, man, that's crazy. People called me, ring me, hey, notice you weren't there, what's going on? I said, I had to leave. Why? I said, you need to talk to Pastor Jones. That was hard, because I wanted to be a talebearer. You've got to keep your eyes on God. I had my eyes on God when I left, but then in the midst of leaving, I took my eyes off God and I got away from God. That's the worst time of my life, when I kept my eyes on God, made a good decision, left that church, and then I just got weary. And I took my eyes, I got quit going to church. Just got upset. Passion is the inward hunger. Blank. Passion is the inward hunger. Got to be a reason you do what you do. Can I say something else? I've got a lot of opinions, don't I? I talk to a lot of preachers. I watch some preaching. Not a lot all the time, but enough. And you know what's missing? Passion. They're teachers. My Bible says that in the last days, men shall heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. These guys have lost their inward hunger. It's a job. It's mechanical. Linda, your brother and I had a good talk. I just tried to share with him what I felt he needed to hear. I don't have a Bible college. Let me tell you, if I want to go to war, I want to talk to a soldier. I don't want to talk to a teacher that teaches out of a book how to do war. I want to talk to a guy that's been in war. And so I just said, hey, I want to share some things with you. And he had kind of asked me if there was anything. I said, yeah, look. You lose your inward hunger. What do you have? I'm not talking just about preachers, but especially preachers. One of you go, I'm going to church. That's catchy. I can smell it. I can see it. Vision. Make sure you write it down. Vision is the upward look. Passion is the inward hunger. And guidance is the outward action. You need God to guide your life. What do you want, God? What do you want, God? What do you want, God? What do you want? Where do you want me? I want to do it, God. I'll go anywhere. What do you want? Where do you want? You think if David asked God if he should go with the Philistines, God would have said, that's a good idea for a little while. God would have said this in Hebrew, are you crazy? Isn't it funny what we can convince ourselves of or talk ourselves into? Just do your part. And we're going to finish that, can we, next week? Just do your part. Heavenly Father, we need vision, passion, and guidance. No matter who we are, no matter where we are, we need that.